The courtroom buzzed with uneasy murmurs before falling silent as the sharp crack of the gavel echoed against the walls. All eyes turned to the young girl seated at the defense table. Her slim figure was swallowed by a suit that didn't quite fit, and her fingers were interlocked in a composed, deliberate manner. For someone standing on the brink of public ridicule, she appeared alarmingly calm. Judge Harland leaned forward, his gaze scrutinizing her with a mix of disbelief and derision. "This has to be a joke," he muttered, his voice low, but carrying enough weight to be heard by all. Adjusting his glasses, he narrowed his eyes at her. "You're seriously telling me this child, is representing the defense?" The name Isla Kent meant nothing to anyone in the legal sphere. To the crowd packed into the courtroom, she was just a teenager, a nobody, staring down a monumental case that even seasoned attorneys would approach with trepidation. For hours, the gallery had been brimming with anticipation, only for this diminutive figure to step forward and declare herself the defense counsel in a high-stakes embezzlement trial. Whispers rippled through the room like an oncoming wave. Was this some kind of stunt? An elaborate humiliation? But Isla's expression didn't waver. Her steady gaze met the judge's without hesitation, her face betraying no hint of fear or uncertainty. In truth, she had been preparing for this moment for as long as she could remember. The outcome wasn't just about winning. It was about proving that she belonged here. What no one else in the room realized was that Isla's mind operated on a different level entirely. Opposite her stood the prosecutor, Mara Donovan, a veteran litigator with an air of authority and decades of courtroom experience. Donovan's tailored suit was as sharp as the disdain in her eyes as she glanced at Isla. "This isn't a classroom debate, young lady," she said with a cold, clipped tone. "The law isn't a game." Yet Isla didn't falter. Her demeanor was almost unervingly serene, as if the trial unfolding around her was nothing more than a mental exercise she had already solved. What was driving her? Why take on a challenge like this, when failure seemed inevitable? And above all, what was her strategy? The judge's skepticism was palpable. The prosecutor's confidence radiated superiority, and time was ticking. For everyone else, it was a countdown to disaster. For Isla, it was something else entirely. Would she crumble under the mounting pressure? Or was there something hidden beneath her composed exterior? A spark that no one else had noticed? Unlike other teenagers her age, Isla had never sought solace in the carefree rhythms of adolescence. While her peers spent their days on social media or gossiping over coffee, Isla lived in a world of case files and dusty law books. Her obsession with legal battles had begun as a means of escape, a way to cope with the chaos of her home life. Raised by a single father who had once been a brilliant defense attorney before a devastating scandal ended his career, Isla had grown up watching him drown in bitterness and regret. But Isla was determined to rewrite the story her father had abandoned. She wouldn't allow herself to fade into obscurity. Every late-night study session, every textbook devoured by flashlight, had prepared her for this. Her drive wasn't born solely of ambition. It was fueled by a deep, unshakable need to prove her worth. And though no one else in the room believed in her, Isla had long since learned that brilliance is often underestimated in its rawest form. The trial began in earnest. Isla rose from her chair, facing the courtroom with a quiet confidence that unsettled even the most seasoned observers. As the prosecutor delivered her opening statement, every argument, every possible counterpoint, clicked into place in Isla's mind. It was all a matter of timing. She just needed her chance. But Judge Harlan's patience was already wearing thin. With a loud slam of his gavel, he cut through the air of tension. "This farce has gone on long enough," he roared. His voice ricocheted through the courtroom. "We'll take a recess, and when we return, I expect a qualified attorney to be standing at that table. Otherwise, this case will be dismissed." The crowd stirred restlessly, their gazes flickering between the judge and Isla. But as the gavel fell and the room began to clear, Isla's expression remained unchanged. Because in her mind, the trial hadn't even begun. Something shifted within Isla. Her pulse quickened, but her mind was razor sharp. This was her moment. She couldn't let herself be dismissed or intimidated. Rising from her seat, she commanded attention as she strode to the center of the room. Without hesitation, she gestured for the prosecutor to take her place, her fingers gripping the edge of the table with quiet determination. The room seemed to shrink around her presence as she locked eyes with Judge Harland. "Your Honor," Isla began, her voice steady and resolute, "I am the defense counsel in this case, and I will prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that I am capable of securing justice for my client." The courtroom froze, a collective gasp hanging in the air. Isla's boldness was almost laughable to the seasoned legal professionals present. The prosecutor, the judge, even the other attorneys viewed her with patronizing smirks. To them, she was a child and over her head. But Isla didn't need their approval. She needed the truth to prevail. Her unwavering belief in herself was all that mattered. As the trial progressed, Isla's quick wit and sharp analytical mind began to unravel the prosecution's carefully constructed case. She exposed gaps in their arguments and inconsistencies in their evidence, details even the most experienced attorneys had overlooked. Her pointed questions left the prosecutor fumbling for answers. Slowly but surely, the balance of power in the courtroom began to shift. But the stakes went far beyond the trial itself. Isla sensed a sinister undercurrent, a web of corruption and deception stretching far beyond the case at hand. She realized she wasn't just fighting for her client. She was up against powerful forces intent on silencing her. The courtroom was only one battleground. To succeed, Isla had to stay 2 steps ahead. The turning point came when Isla unearthed a buried piece of evidence, an email hidden beneath layers of obfuscation that revealed a damning connection between the prosecutor and the corporation implicated in the fraud. The revelation had the potential to upend the entire trial. But it was a gamble. If she presented it, she would be accusing a respected prosecutor of complicity in the crime. There would be no turning back. Standing at the heart of the courtroom, Isla held the incriminating document in her hand, her mind racing. The judge's stern gaze bore down on her, and the prosecutor's icy glare was filled with fury. Her client, an innocent man on the verge of losing everything, watched her with quiet desperation. She had no choice but to act. But just as she prepared to make her move, a message arrived, a veiled threat against her father. For the first time, Isla hesitated. The people behind this case weren't just targeting her. They were going after those she loved. Doubts crept in. Was justice worth the risk? Had her determination to prove herself come at too high a cost? She was at a crossroads, and the weight of her choices threatened to crush her resolve. Summoning every ounce of courage, Isla stepped forward. With her voice steady and clear, she addressed the court. "Your Honor, this evidence will reveal the truth about this case. I am prepared to expose the lies and corruption behind these charges, no matter the cost." What followed was a battle of wills. Isla meticulously dismantled the prosecution's facade, piece by piece. She exposed the hidden connections, the manipulation, and the conspiracy at play. Her arguments were so precise, so undeniable, that even the most skeptical jurors began to see the cracks in the prosecution's case. When the verdict was finally delivered, not guilty, the courtroom erupted in disbelief. Isla had done the impossible. She had won. Months later, Isla sat in her modest apartment, watching the aftermath of the case unfold on the news. The prosecutor had been disbarred. The trial had sparked a national outcry against systemic corruption. Isla's name was now synonymous with brilliance, resilience, and courage. But Isla knew the victory wasn't just about the headlines. It was about proving to herself that she could rise above the odds. As she gazed out over the city, a quiet sense of triumph filled her. She had faced giants and prevailed. Yet she knew this was only the beginning. What would Isla take on next? What challenges lay ahead in the labyrinth of law and justice? One thing was certain. She was ready for whatever came her way. So, what do you think? Can sheer determination and brilliance overcome even the most insurmountable odds? Share your thoughts below, and stay tuned for more stories of defiance, courage, and unexpected triumph. The journey has only just begun.